Hi guys, welcome back to ToK Today. My name's Daniel and I'm here to help. So today's video is a helping you out video, a trying to show you the way video. We're going to look at what claims and counterclaims mean in the ToK essay. So if you're just not sure, then this could be the video for you. If you've got absolutely no idea, and maybe you're a bit worried about asking your teacher, then this is the video for you. If you're really sorted on what claims and counterclaims are, you might find something in here that you didn't already know, like a look at the different types of claims and counterclaims, and maybe you weren't sure about that. So again, it could be helpful for you. The higher mark bands in the ToK essay require you to have arguments. Now, they don't define what they mean by arguments, and there are many different ways of putting arguments into your essay. I just used the claim-counterclaim structure because it's one that I found that students understand, it's accessible, and it's been successful over the years. It's a way that students have had success over the years. But it's not the only way to do this. There are other ways to put your arguments into the essay, so it's not absolutely essential that you call it claim and counterclaim or that you even use those words in the essay. It's just a good way to structure arguments to ensure that you get into those higher mark bands. Hopefully it will be successful for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run through 3 different types of claims, showing you how they could be extracted from 3 examples of prescribed essay titles. I'm then going to run through the possible counterclaims to those claims. So the first thing to note is that the ToK essay has to be a debate. It has to be a sort of an argument, a discussion. You have to have different sides of this debate. So the analogy or metaphor, the metaphor that I often give my students is that it's like a competitive sports match, like a tennis match or a basketball game or a football match. Like the arguments go from one side and then back again to the other side and then back again to the other side, with both sides of the argument competing to score the goal. And in this instance, the goal is to provide strong arguments and evidence to support the prescribed title or to show a different perspective or a different view on the prescribed title. So what this means is that you can't be descriptive. You can't just describe an argument and describe the evidence which supports that argument. You have to be analytical and evaluative, so you have to analyse the argument in terms of the prescribed title, and you have to provide evidence to support that argument. And if you need more help on what sort of evidence you should be using and how you should be using it, then I have information on the toktoday.com website, and I have an ebook that goes into that in detail. The ebook is called How to Write the ToK Essay in 6 Easy Steps, and you can find it on the website at toktoday.com. Okay, without further ado, let's get into those claims and counterclaims. Okay, so first of all, let's look at what a claim and a counterclaim actually is. So quite simply, claims and counterclaims are developed from the prescribed title. Now that's quite a special skill, and that's what I'm going to go into today, is how you develop the claim and counterclaim as put up here. And approximately or roughly, I would say there are 2 ways of developing claims and counterclaims. Either you, as shown in type 1 here, you directly develop the claim and the counterclaim directly from the prescribed title, or as shown in type 2 here, you develop the claim only directly from the prescribed title, and then once you explore the claim, you develop the counterclaim. So the counterclaim is developed from the claim. Don't worry about that too much. I'll go into it in more detail now that we get into the actual claims and counterclaims themselves. So the first type of claim is where the claim is the prescribed title itself. There's no difference between the prescribed title of the essay question and the claim. So with this example, the prescribed title is Observations, the most effective form of knowledge production. Discuss this approach with reference to 2 areas of knowledge. And the claim here is just taken directly from this prescribed title. Observation is the most effective form of knowledge production in AoK history. I've chosen history as my area of knowledge here, and observation is the most effective form of knowledge production is directly taken from the prescribed title. Pretty straightforward. Let's move on. The second type of claim is where the claim is a strand developed from the prescribed title. So it's not exactly the prescribed title, but it's just taken from this prescribed title. So this prescribed title here is, if each knower creates a unique and individual interpretation of knowledge, it is impossible to create universal standardized meanings. Discuss the challenges that this presents in 2 areas of knowledge. So here the claim that I've come up with is that individual interpretation of knowledge does not prevent standardized meaning in AoK natural sciences. I've taken some ideas from the prescribed title, the idea of individual interpretation of knowledge and universal standardized meanings. I've worked those up into a claim, and then I've actually gone against the prescribed title. Now later on I'm going to have to argue for the prescribed title, probably in the second area of knowledge. We'll come on to that. And essentially what I've done is I've taken parts of or strands of the prescribed title to work up into my claim. Okay, let's move on to the third and final type of claim. So here, the claim is a possible implicit argument underpinning the prescribed title. Now, implicit means that it's implied by the prescribed title, but it's not clearly stated in the prescribed title. It's implied, so it's there, it could be there, but it isn't actually said. I'll show you what I mean. The prescribed title in this case is there a trade-off between disbelief and the successful production of knowledge? Discussed with reference to 2 areas of knowledge. So is there a trade-off? That means as one increases, the other decreases, between disbelief and the successful production of knowledge. So that means that if you increase disbelief, you decrease successful production of knowledge. And if you increase the successful production of knowledge, then you have to decrease disbelief. That's the trade-off. So I've sort of thought about this, and I've thought about a claim, and my claim is disbelief is an essential component of the successful production of knowledge in AoK, the human sciences. So I've decided to argue, as my first big argument, that we need disbelief to produce successful knowledge in AoK, the human sciences. Okay guys, so that's the first 3 types of claim, or that's the 3 main types of claim. Let's go on and have a look at counterclaims. Now, in the blog I explain in more detail here that a counterclaim could be a rebuttal of the claim. It could just be a direct rebuttal of the claim. Or a counterclaim can be a development of the exploration of the claim. Or a counterclaim can be a different perspective. It doesn't have to be a direct rebuttal. It can just be a different perspective on the AoK. Because remember, there's no requirement from IB to have claims and counterclaims in your essay. The only requirement from IB is that we have arguments in the essay, not necessarily claims and counterclaims. Let's move on to these counterclaims. Okay, so the first type of counterclaim here is the straightforward one. It's virtually the direct rebuttal. So if you remember, the prescribed title was that observation is the most effective form of knowledge production. The claim that I came up with is that observation is the most effective form of knowledge production in AoK history. So now the counterclaim is that other forms of knowledge production are the most effective forms of knowledge production in AoK mathematics. Those other forms of knowledge production could be experimentation, they could be use of hypothesis testing, they could be modeling, they could be peer review, and so on and so on. Now, this isn't a direct rebuttal, because a direct rebuttal of this claim would just be observation is not the most effective form of knowledge production. But I've opened it up a bit to other forms of knowledge production. So I'm able to, rather than just saying observation is not the most effective form, I've opened it up to allow me to discuss other forms of knowledge production. Moving on. Let's have a look at the second form of counterclaim. And here, the counterclaim is a development of the claim. It's not the direct rebuttal, it's a development from the claim. So, if you remember this prescribed title from earlier, it's if each knower creates a unique and individual interpretation of knowledge, it's impossible to create universal standardized meanings. And my claim was that individual interpretation of knowledge does not prevent standardized meaning in AoK Natural Sciences. I've also added AoK Human Sciences. That's a little sneaky one that I decided to do after writing the claim. So I would go back and edit my essay if I was writing this as an essay. So individual interpretation of knowledge does not prevent standardized meaning in natural and human sciences. That's the claim. What's the counterclaim? Well, the counterclaim becomes the methodology of knowledge production has little influence over meaning and interpretation in natural sciences and human sciences. So the methodology of knowledge production has little influence over meaning and interpretation. Now, the reason for this is that in this claim, I would be arguing that the scientific method means that interpretation, individual interpretation, doesn't stop people from developing standardized meaning. And I made a separation between the words meaning and interpretation here. And I'm going to define those two things in different ways in this claim. So the scientific method, you may have different interpretations, but you would have a standardized meaning. And I'd link that to language. If you want to know more about how I do that, then read the blog post on this on toktoday.com, which I'll leave a link to in the video description. And in the counterclaim here, what I'm doing is I'm saying, well, it really doesn't matter what that methodology of knowledge production is. It could be the scientific method, but it still doesn't influence meaning or interpretation, and crucially interpretation. So I'm arguing for the prescribed title in the counterclaim that you do have individual interpretation of knowledge, regardless of the system of knowledge production. Okay, we move on to the final counterclaim, the final type of counterclaim. So the final type of counterclaim is where the counterclaim is a variation of the claim. You'll see what I mean as I go through this. So remember this prescribed title from the claims. Is there a trade-off between disbelief and the successful production of knowledge, discussed with reference to two areas of knowledge? So the claim here is that I put earlier is that disbelief is an essential component of successful production of knowledge in AoK Human Sciences. And in that I would be arguing that in the process of peer review, scientists are trying to find flaws in published research, i.e. they're trying to disbelieve that published research, to find the flaws, to then improve the published research so that we can get closer to objective research. That's the way that sciences work, both human and natural sciences, is trying to find flaws to improve the research going forwards. So my counterclaim going forwards on that would be that disbelief can both promote and hinder the successful production of knowledge in the arts. So what I'm arguing here is that you need disbelief to a degree in the production of knowledge in the arts. So the use of imagination might be a form of disbelief. The use of faith as a way of knowing might be a form of disbelief. But you also have to have some hard reality or quantitative statistical reality to have successful production knowledge in the arts. And I would talk about artistic theory there, or systems like music theory or colour theory or composition theory in visual arts. And I would talk about things like producing art for an audience. You have to have, you can't just have disbelief in trying to judge the register of the audience. So guys, it was a bit of a different type of video today, but I hope that you found that useful. The essential building blocks that you need to write a successful ToK essay. If you want more information on how to write the ToK essay, you need more help, then check out the other content that's on ToK Today, and be sure to go to our website, toktoday.com, for loads of different learning resources. If you need even more help than that, then you can check out the ebook, How to Write the ToK Essay in 6 Easy Steps. And if you need even more help than that, then please get in touch with me at daniel@toktoday.com, and I am happy to help you. And on that note, I'll say to you, have a wonderful day in your DP learning, stay ToKtastic, and I'll see you on the next one.